Hi, my name is Forrest Golic, and I'll be talking to you today about uncoupling health span and lifespan in Drosophila melanogaster. I'd like to start off with a thought experiment. Now, natural selection says that the perfect organism would be one that lives forever, is resistant to all stress, it reproduces extremely rapidly, and is ready to reproduce right after birth. Now, this organism is what's known as a Darwinian demon. And so my question is, where are all these Darwinian demons? Now, one model that's been proposed to explain why they don't exist is this model called the Y model, which posits that organisms have a finite amount of resources available to them, and that these resources can be selectively allocated to either somatic maintenance or reproduction, but you can't maximize both of them at the same time. In other words, there's a trade-off between the two. And so what I did was I designed an experiment to test this hypothesis. And so I measured somatic maintenance, lifespan, climbing, stress resistance, an average weight of fruit flies, and I also measured these fruit flies' reproductive output. And so here's what I found. Starting in the top left, we have the number of offspring a genotype produced versus the genotype's median lifespan, and the Y model would predict a negative correlation between these two. But what in fact we see is no correlation at all. Moving to the top right, we have climbing ability on the y-axis, median lifespan on the x-axis. The Y model would predict a positive correlation here, and in fact, that's what we see. Moving to the bottom left, we have cold stress resistance and median lifespan. And so what we'd expect here with the Y model is a positive correlation between the two because they're both measures of somatic maintenance. However, what we see is a negative correlation, which is really interesting because that means that these two measures of somatic maintenance are actually trading off with each other. Moving to the bottom right, we have cold stress resistance on the Y and average fly model on the X. Again, two measures of somatic maintenance, and we would expect a positive correlation, but what we see is a negative correlation. So what can explain these observations? The Y model is useful for understanding sort of a basic trade-off between reproduction and somatic maintenance, but it really makes the assumption that all these measures of somatic maintenance are grouped into one sort of lump category, when in reality, they seem to be trading off with each other, feeding back into each other, crossing over, and all sorts of crazy things. So I think a better model would be something more like tree roots. Now, why does this even matter? And it matters because understanding the architecture of these trade-offs is really important in being able to answer questions like, why is genetic variation maintained in a population, and why do we age? Now, I'd like to finish by thanking all the wonderful people who made this research possible, as well as the Mary Gates Endowment. Thank you.